Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's CJ with Roswell Astronomy, and today is Thanksgiving 2018. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So just to recap, we'll go through these steps real quick, just in case you're unfamiliar with Astro Pixel processor, or you're just getting started with it, and got a couple of tips and techniques you can look at as well. So when you pop it open, of course, the first thing it's going to ask you for is to select a working directory. What does this mean? It just means where do you want to store your files when they've been completed, as it's working through them. So I'm just going to pull them out, pick a file. So we'll say the APP M33 tutorial. We're going to stick them there, click open. My directory has been set. Go up here, that's your license information, of course, and your CFG. And if you click on your CFG, it'll tell you how many gigabytes of memory you want to use towards APP while it's processing. So I've got mine set at 14. Enable tooltips, that's where when you were hovering over these, it was showing exactly what they were for, and as you go through your different tabs here, when you hover over it, it'll give you the information. So you want to leave that ticked, at least starting out. Your console output is actually that thing right there, which always runs in the background, and it will also run here while things are going through the processing. Enable sounds on completion. That's that loud dong sound that goes on just to let you know it's finished, which is perfect if you want to go ahead and set it up. Go on your merry way, go take care of it, clean up the kitchen, do whatever you got to do, and when you hear it, then you know you're ready to come back, because sometimes it does take quite a while for information to process on this program. So we're going to hit OK. And if you're shooting one-shot color, you need to start actually on 0 raw fits. Reason being is you need to pick your bear pattern, and so for me, for my QHY163C, it's a BGGR. The algorithm I'm going to leave as adaptive airy disk. If you have other options here though that you can choose from, especially if you are shooting with one-shot color and you're also using like a duo band filter in front of it, you have these options here in order to put it together. And then of course click on Force Bear CFA. If you're shooting with a Nikon or Canon or something, you do have to click on your camera white balance. And of course your multipliers here just determines how much you want to apply of each color in your color image. After that, we go to load. We're not going to check these boxes unless of course you're shooting LRGB or narrowband. You don't have to worry about that. If you're going with multiple sessions and different setups, you would click on multi-session processing. But if you're using your scope, your camera, just go ahead and leave that unticked. And if you're shooting one-shot color or DSLR, leave that unticked. Leave your auto detect masters and integrations there. And then first thing you do, click on your lights. And when you click on your lights, you're going to go in. Now, these are a bunch of lights that are in here, but what I did was, APP does not have a blink program written into it yet. It is being worked on. One of the things Mabula Haverkamp had said was he is going to be putting in some sort of function like that, like blink, which we find in PI, which just allows you to go in and actually look at your individual subs and then throw out any of them that you don't particularly like. And what I did was I took them into PI and ran them in blink in there, and then I kept all the ones that I wanted to keep, and I chucked the rest of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight it. This is why it says accepted. So I'm going to highlight all these. There we go. Should have 260 something in there, I believe. Yep, 266. Going to load my flats. And that is in my QHY master file. Same thing, just going to load them in here. There they are. Going to load my darks. Which incidentally, if you're not familiar with how to select all, it's quite easy. If you just left click your first file, go all the way to the end, hold down your shift key, left click again, That'll highlight everything. You can pull them in all at one time. Surprisingly, some people didn't know that. I didn't know that originally when I first started several years ago on some stuff, and I learned it very quickly. That's how you do it. So there you go. So 266 lights, 50 flats, 50 darks, 50 biases. I don't shoot dark flats. If you already have master flats, you can load in your master flats or master darks or master biases and a pixel map, a bad pixel map if you happen to have one. If you don't have one, these are fine. You can actually create one. And if you go into the Calibrate tab, this is where you would put this, you would go down here to the bottom and you would click Create a Bad Pixel Map, which would create the bad pixel map for you. A couple things to watch for on your masters here, on your integration. If you hover over it, anything that says average, if you're using less than 20 frames, you want to use median. If you're shooting more than 20 frames, then just use average. And since I've got 50 of each, I'm going to leave these set as averages. The rejections, the outlier rejections, you don't really have to do anything with these if you know you've got good flats, darks, and biases already. You could use Sigma Clip or Windsor Sigma Clip if you wanted to, which are kind of popular if you're using PI. But for this particular session, I'm not going to use the Sigma clipping on any of these. I'm going to leave these all as no rejection, just because I've gone through them. They look pretty good. I've looked at them individually. But I am going to create my bad pixel map. Now, there is several things you can do here. If you want to go tab by tab, and so like you would go ahead and create your masters and assign your lights, and then you go to analyze your stars, and then you can analyze your stars, and then you can go to register and you can set your register. You can do all that one at a time if you want to. However, you don't need to. When you get to tab 6 for integrate, once you hit integrate, it will actually go back and it will perform the tasks under tab 2, 3, 4, 5, and then integrate it into 6. So I'm just going to preset all these. I'm going to go to analyze stars. Now I did see, I did have an issue, and it seems to be with versions 1.069 and 1.070, where the star detection seems to be a little messed up for some reason. I'm not 100% sure why. What I found though is that I've tried this a couple of ways. One is I left these unticked and I reduced my kappa level, which then allowed it to analyze the stars and then register them. Before, I left these automatically ticked and it wouldn't register for some reason. It would not read the stars, and I'm not sure why. It has been listed in the forum. Mabula is supposed to be back from vacation here in the next week or so, and I believe that's one of the things he's going to be looking at, and will probably be a fix on the next release. And they seem to be releasing the new releases fairly quickly as they're making changes, so that's a good thing. So for what I did was I left this unticked. I left automatic minimum stars ticked, lowered it, and then dropped my kappa value down to 003, lowered my minimum down to 100, and it was able to process. Go into register. You can set your own reference frame if you want to. However, I'm going to let, once you do the analyzing stars and it goes to register, it's going to pick the best frame that it thinks it has, and I'm going to trust it to do that. I'm not going to change any of this information. I'm just going to go with the defaults that are here. I'm not using any kind of distortion correction. I'm going to leave everything else as is, and not going to do anything there. I'm going to come over to normalize. Same thing. I'm going to leave it as regular, rectilinear. Say that 5 times fast after eating a turkey. Yeah, man, I'm going to leave all these the same. I'm going to leave my scale as BWMV, though you do have a choice. Same thing with the method. Again, all these I'm going to leave as defaults. They seem to work pretty well. I'm going to leave neutralized background in there, and I'm not going to worry about my overshoots or anything like that. And then finally on integrate. Now if I was doing LRGB or I was doing narrowband, when you clicked that in the beginning here, you'll see this come up again for your integrate per channel. You would have to make a setting here. On lights to stack, right now it's saying 266 of 266. Basically what I'm saying is I want every single light to be stacked. However, I'm not going to do that because I've got enough data. I am going to drop this down to about 257, 58. And basically what that means is it's going to take the highest scored quality scores. It is going to stack those frames, and anything that is below a certain level out of 258, it's going to throw away out of that 266. So I'm giving 8 of them. If they're really crappy, throw them out. We're not going to use them. Weights, we're going to leave set as equal. Again, you can change this if you wanted to. If you wanted to go to exposure or to quality or to SNR or to noise or to star shape, you have these choices. I believe mine is equal. Same thing with the integrate, with the average. Anytime you see average, it's assuming you have more than 20 frames, but if you have less than 20, make sure you choose median. I'll leave this as full. I am going to do some local normalization. So I'm going to change that to first degree LNC. The number of iterations, I'm going to change that to 1. I am going to enable multi-blend banding and leave it at the default 5%. I'm not going to use any kind of outlier rejection, no drizzles, none of that information. And then what I'm going to do is click on integrate, and then it's going to start itself running. So there it goes, boom. And as you can see, it started right back at step 2, which was tab 2, which was calibrate, and it's going to go through and calibrate your calibration frames, which are your master darks, master biases, and master flats. So I'm going to let that rock and roll, and actually through the magic of video, I'm going to get to it right about now. Okay, so when it's all said, and done, and running, this is going to come up. Here's what we'll come up with. Here's our picture. And this, of course, this has now been calibrated. It's stacked. It's registered. It's everything all together. You can tell by the unevenness of the borders and everything. This was shot over several days as a total. And just as an FYI, if you happen to see this right here, this is just information of basically what it's doing as it's rolling. And you can have that open if you want to, or you can just grab it just like that, shut it if you want to. Quick pointers to scroll in or scroll out. If you want to zoom in, left click, left click, left click. If you want to zoom out, right click, right click, right click. And there we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to batch modify. These are, from what I've read and seen in some videos, these are set up to be done in order as they go from top to bottom. And I do believe he's going to be adding some more things in here eventually. I believe he's going to come up with some more denoising options, as well as some smoothing options. And I believe he's got a couple of other pretty cool features he's going to be adding in here coming up here at the end of this year into the beginning of next. So he's constantly modifying and making better changes, so hopefully good new stuff's going to come out. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a batch modify on this image, and basically what batch modify means is we're going to crop it. So I'm going to look at my borders and how I want to play with these, and if you see, this is my furthest behind, or probably the second behind one. So I'm just going to left click hold and drag and create a box of what I want, like so. And then when I'm done, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to hit crop OK. And I'm going to have to save this file at this point. So click OK. There's that ding, tell me it's done. And now it has added it to the bottom. Always make sure when you're checking on an image that you click it, the next one that falls into line, because it's the next one you're working on. Otherwise you are back on the one you originally started, and as you're going through the different processes, you're not going to be working on the same one that you originally were. Okay, so we're just going to take a look at this. Not too terribly bad. There's not a lot of noise in it. There obviously is some gradients that need to be removed. We've got some issues to go on. We also got some coloring that needs to be done, and even though this is in color, a lot of things could be strengthened and pulled out, made brighter. So at this point I'm going to come over here to the right side of our screen, and as you see up here, here's our histogram, which is on stretch. You can neutralize the background from here just to get a preview to see what it's looking like, which I don't like it. I don't typically click that. On your sliders, this is your black point, this is your white point, and what I would suggest is, if you notice these say 1 and 3, 1 and 3. So if you do a shift here, if you left click, hold, pull it over a little bit, you're going to make a huge jump. So to bring this down in scale, just keep clicking until you change these to 3, 4, 3, 4. Do the same of them down here. That way you're not making huge adjustments, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. If you notice the slider there, I'm coming up and going down on my black point. If you left it at 1 and 2, it would make a huge dramatic roll, and then you have no idea of where to get back to. So this just makes it a little bit easier to get where you need to be, and you don't make huge wild adjustments. I am going to click on saturation. This is going to bring it up a little bit more, see my colors a little bit better. If you notice, it's already made a huge improvement just by clicking on that saturation of what the center looks like, which is now more pinkish. My reds have come up a little bit better, my blues have come up a little bit better. I can also further stretch it. These are preset stretches here, so I can go up to, let's say, 20. Let's see how that looks. Very, very bright. Almost too bright for my taste, so I'm going to knock it back down, and we can try 5 sigma, see how that looks. That's pretty nice, and this is just a baseline. This is more, right now this is more or less just for seeing it. You're not quite tweaking so far as you're setting up points, but I do like the way this is already colored up a little bit. So at this point I'm not going to do any batch rotation or resizing. I don't need to. I'm pretty happy with my cut. I don't want to turn it either way. I like it where it's at. I don't really have any vignetting, so I'm not going to worry about vignetting, but I am going to go into remove light pollution. So he's going to ask you, are you sure you want to work on this one? You say, yes, I do. And there it is. So for light pollution, it says you need to select at least 5 area blocks. You don't need to do huge blocks like this. That isn't really going to help you. You want to more or less do kind of smaller blocks, just randomly around. And again, we're doing light pollution here. This is what we're trying to get rid of. And you may have to go through several iterations of this. And once you've made your boxes, just click calculate. And it's going to start removing that light pollution. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. Now your yellow boxes are samples that are, they were factored, but they're not really great. If you have red boxes, there was something wrong with the area that was sampled. To clear those off, all you got to do is just remove yellow, or if you had any red, hit remove red. So I've still got some green boxes. I still see some light pollution here that I don't particularly like. So I'm going to start concentrating now on these areas. If you can see around the sides here in the corners, I'm going to start calling in some of those. I'm going to pull a little bit more or less towards the middle in some of the darker areas without so many stars, like so, like so, like so. I'm going to click calculate again, and it's going to run through. See how it looks. Okay, that was much better. As you can see down here though, I now have a red box, so I'm going to remove my red box. I'm going to remove my yellow ones as well because I want to use good clean boxes for selections. So I'm just going to go back in. I'm going to do a few more. Looks like I got a little bit of some stuff up here on the top. I want to make sure I grab those. Here, I'm liking it there, there. there. See a little bit here on the edges I need to work on. Click calculate again. Okay, much better. Much better. Got a bunch of boxes, but that's okay. It's a lot more. It's a lot more flat now. You can tell a lot of the pollution is gone out of it, and I think the rest of it I'm going to be able to get out with the background tool. So at this point, I'm just going to come down here to OK and save. You can rename the file if you'd like to, or you could just go with the naming that's in here. So as you follow it through, we're at LPC, which is the light pollution, and then the CBG, which is to calibrate the background, which is I'm about to go into. It fits. There we go. I'm going to go into calibrate background. Now, from what I understand, though, is if you use light pollution, that also does calibrate background. But I've seen, for some reason, I've done it now a couple of times where I've gone in after light pollution and done it again anyway, and I think it made a difference. So for hitting the background, though, I'm going to kind of stay away from all these stars, and I'm going to try to go with more of the darker background areas. You don't have to, but from what I've seen, this actually seems to work a little bit better, at least with the data I've been pulling up and been using. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create some boxes again. I'm going to stay away from my cores of galaxies. I'm going to stay away from nebula. I don't want that to be processed in or taken into account when it's making its corrections. I'm going to hit calculate. And I'm not sure if you can see the difference on your screen, but I can see a very big difference. So again, even though light pollution is supposed to be able to calibrate your background as well, I've just found if I come in and do it myself again, I actually get better results. So that's why I'm doing it. And again, I'm just going to go around a little bit. I want to stay away from nebulosity, and I want to stay away from galaxy centers and cores. I want to concentrate on just the background. Again, looked a little bit better. And you can do this on the light pollution and the calibrate background. You can do it as many times as you want until you get to the effect that you want. But just remember, you know, you're not going to go with an absolute complete black background. You can once you get over here to your black point, but on this you really don't need to do that. You're always going to be kind of this lightish, grayish looking color typically. So I like that. I'm going to click OK and save. Once again, I can rename the file if I choose to. Otherwise, I'm going to say OK. Scroll down. Okay, so let's go to Star Analyze, or Calibrate, or excuse me, not Star Analyze, but Calibrate Star Colors. Pick the last object I was working on, which is right here. There she is, and I'm going to go on Calibrate Star Colors. Click Yes. And basically, I'm just going to choose a box about yay big, and I'm going to hit Calculate. And it's going to review the stars and decide what it thinks should be what. And there we go. And if you did notice, it did change the color of the picture, and basically because it's also looking at these stars as well, so it's looking at the entire field. And near as I can tell, by no means am I an expert on this yet, I'm still kind of learning it, but from what I'm seeing, from what I'm understanding is, as these blue dots are the stars that it's looking at, right? And the orange ones are ones that are on the very outliers that it's not really considering, but it is considering the ones that are in the blue. And down here, these graphs kind of go hand in hand, but on this one down here, if you see, your blue stars are invading into this area. Well, as we all know, there's not a lot of blue stars that are out there. There's more red stars, yellow, white stars than there are blue. So if you happen to have a whole boatload of blue stars in here, that's obviously not correct. You want to shift that back towards the towards the red side of your graph rather than the blue side of your graph. The slope, from what I understand, is kind of the measurement of the degree, so to speak, of the color that it's anticipating. So it could be pushing it more towards the bluish side or the reddish side. And from what I've gathered is we're not trying to eliminate all these blue stars, but we want to kind of make it like a quarter to three-quarter movement back. So the way to do that is this slider right here, which is blue-red. And if I bring it back, let's just do a small, let's just say 10%, hit calculate. We should see these moving back towards red. So there you go. We have, let's push it back quite considerably. And then if we blow in onto the photo, which I'm again using left click in order to do so, you will notice, I mean, I do have some blue ringing around my stars here. Some of that I'm going to be able to get out when I go to do the color, the selective color. But the actual star itself is not blue. That's just the halo that's coming around it. So if I just go through and inspect my picture here, as you can see, my stars look pretty good. I got yellows, I got reds. There may be a few faint blue ones that might be in there like that, which is fine. I don't want to get rid of all the blue stars, but I do want to not have a full thing loaded full of blue stars. That we don't want. So just ticking around with this a little bit, that actually looks pretty good from what I can tell. And again, I'm not 100% on this. I'm still learning this feature, but that's the most important thing to know. The best slider to know is that one right there, and that is to make sure you don't have a ton of blue stars. There's not that many. There's actually going to be red. So without butchering this particular tab anymore, I'm going to click OK and save. Hit OK. Save this fits file. We've saved again. Come down to the bottom, scroll down, use the last image I was working with, and here we are. Okay, so looking pretty good so far, kind of liking it. Let's go down now. We don't have to do combine RGB. You're going to do that when you're shooting filters. So I'm going to come right on down to selective color. Again, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to work on this one? And the reason why I'd ask you this is you can keep going back and doing different iterations and trying different things without making a permanent saved copy. So you can always move forward, move forward, move forward, move forward based off of one original. And you don't have to worry about screwing up that original. You always got a starting place to go back to. So for this instance, though, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there. I'm going to go right into it. Here we are. So over here on this side, just like we had before, we have calculate. Now we have apply and we have create. If you use this drop box down here, these are the colors that you're going to be working with. So red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta. You can do black, the gray, black, and white, or do all the colors at one time. I'm going to start first with my red. And down here, I'm not going to worry so much with the low. I'm not going to worry about the background issues. I'm not going to worry about my high. I do have saturation. You can increase saturation if you want to increase the saturation of the color. Click calculate, and it's going to pretty much generalize for reds. So you may not have been able to see a lot of it, but there's a little bit. And the only thing you need to look at is when you go into it, make sure you're not blowing those colored pixels out to where you're creating a lot of noise, which in this one I'm not. I am, however, going to concentrate here on my galaxy because I do want to see what I'm doing. So if we take that saturation back down, you should be able to see the effect. Yep, it was in there. It was subtle, but it was in there. Unless you got a really good monitor, you may not be able to see exactly what I'm seeing, but there are subtle changes that are happening here. So again, I'm concentrating this area, so I want to look at my reds. I do want to increase my reds because I want to bring these little areas, these little knobs up, these little red pearls that are all over, danced around M33 here. So here's my red to cyan, and these are the opposites. So red makes it more red, cyan takes the red out, turns it more cyan color. If you're working on green, obviously going more to green. The opposite of green is magenta. Blue, same thing, more blue, or the opposite of blue is yellow. You can also do add some of your luminance to the particular color if you're trying to increase it. What I have found though is that luminance will create noise and will create some distortions. As you see right here, it has created a lot of issues. So I don't normally mess with the luminance. Click calculate. And just remember, you can click calculate and keep making changes without doing anything permanent, but as soon as you apply it, it then applies it and then resets your sliders based on the colors that you have adjusted for. So if you play with it first and just keep hitting calculate, because you can always go back and adjust these back down to 0 or wherever you originally were. But as soon as you hit apply, it applies it to that image that you're working on. So again, back to the red. So I'm going to increase my red up. I'm going to come up, let's try 50%. Click calculate. Okay, got a little bit more red in there. I'm going to check my whole image, just kind of see what we got. Which incidentally, if you're trying to look at a certain area, depending on where your mouse is, and then you start to left click, it's going to blow up that area that you're looking at. And here I am right clicking back out again. So since I want to look right here in the center of my picture, I'm just going to put my mouse in the center and then left click to blow up into that area. So there we are, and then you can use your sliders here in order to go back and forth. So let's go into magenta. So we're going to come down here to green and magenta. I'm going to increase that a little bit. I think I'm going to bring that up to about 70%. Let's see how that looks. Okay, yeah, that brought it up quite a bit more. Again, I don't know if you can tell this very well or not based on the kind of monitor you're using, but I'm getting more magenta now that is starting to pop out, a little bit more reds, starting to move. Now I do want to be careful so I don't start introducing artifacts, because I can start introducing artifacts by going up too high on the colors from the one stretch from where I'm at. So we're starting to get a little unevenness right around this area right here. It's starting to get a little bit of banding, which I'm not liking. It's not terrible, but I think I am going to try to bring it down a little bit more than that. Click calculate. There we go. It's pulled a little bit of it out. So I'm keeping my color. Things are looking good. I'm liking these larger areas. So I'm going to hit apply, and now apply. Once I hit apply, you'll see that now it's going to apply the changes to the image, and it's going to reset my sliders. Now it doesn't mean your color has just been reset. It just means that you've applied it. Now you can go even further from that point using that same color. So I can keep going if I wanted to keep trying to increase that color and bring those colors up. If I want to get more and more extravagant with it, which I have just done, going up another 100%. And I'm starting to get a lot of artifacts. I'm calling them artifacts. Spilled colors, I guess, is another way you can put it, which I'm not liking. So I am going to bring that down a little bit. Try that. See if I can get some of this out. Yeah, it took a little bit out of there. I think I was actually happy with where I originally was. So I'm going to hit calculate again. That should take that stuff out. There we go. So that's a little bit more reasonable. And let's see. Let's go to blue. I want to bring some of my blue down on my stars. So let's go over here. And again, the opposite of blue is yellow. So in order to reduce some of the blue, I'm going to click that. Hopefully I'll take some of that ringing around out of the star. Did a little bit, not a lot. Click apply. Try to pull a little bit more out. Okay, that did take a little bit more of it out. Now what I am seeing though is I'm starting to introduce some green out here in my ribbons, which, let's go to cyan, and then on cyan let's try bringing the cyan up a little bit more. Let's try 70, see how that looks. Oh, that's nice. Okay, yeah, I brought it up considerably. So now I got a lot brighter cyan kind of going on. I've reduced a little bit of the blue around the halos. I want to be a little careful with that. I don't really mind, as long as the star's not blue, I don't mind the little halo-y effect in one-shot color. I really don't. To me, it's kind of cool. So I'm okay with that. But I did bring my signs up nicely, so more of these spirals are starting to come out. Now I do want to start bringing out some of this yellow. So alright, let's go ahead and apply this, because we're not going to change any of that. And then let's get into our yellow here, and let's see if we can bring that up a little bit more here in the core, this area. It came up a little bit more here in these tendrils. I'm going to blow it out a little bit. There we go. And on the yellow channel, I'm going to add in a little bit of red as well. Try to get a little bit more of that orangey kind of a color coming up. And again, now here's where we need to start looking at some of these stars, because I also know now, if you see as well, my magenta, I'm starting to turn some stuff magenta here, which is my green slider. So let's take that out just a little bit. Let's see what happens. It kind of still gave me a purpley effect. Let's scroll that over a little bit. So instead of doing that, let's take that back down to 0. Here we go, calculate. I'm going to apply it. And then, alright, so now let's go back to magenta. And take a little towards the green. So now here's where I'm going to be kind of playing a little bit. This is kind of like just a trial and error typically. So I'm going to take out a little bit of the magenta, and I'm going to lower the saturation a little bit, about there, let's say. And I've still got some magenta going on here, and let's just make sure I didn't screw up in there. Yep, no, that still looks good. Alright, it's going to apply that. And then we're going to go to green, and then we're going to take the green out by applying magenta. So I do have a little bit of a green cast in there. There we go. Okay. So not bad. I'm okay with it. I'm liking it. I am still seeing a little bit more green than I would care to. Try it a little bit more. Yeah, a little better. And let's try increasing our saturation just a little bit. on the magenta side, see if that helps. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. You could spend quite some time popping around using the different colors and trying to get exactly what you want from it. I'm okay with this, so I've clicked applied, and then I'm going to click create. And it's going to create again. I can name it if I want to. Calibrated, star correction, and star color, and color correction. Should be good now, and then hit cancel. Scroll down. Next one that I would have. Now again, if I didn't like this and I decided I want to try to go to rework it again, I can go back up to any of the pre ones that I've done prior to and go back to that copy and work off of that copy. And so as long as you keep changing the names of it, you can do that. So you can see where I was from here to where I am here. There you go. So I'm going to come over to this side. So a couple of things I want to do here. First off, let's go down. I want to kind of increase some of the dust lanes and stuff that are in here. I want to kind of sharpen this up a little bit. So I'm going to bring my sharp. I'm going to leave my protection around 5, and I'm going to jump this up to 5 also, and then just release it, and it'll start making this change on its own. There we go. So I've started to get a little bit more. I don't know if you can see this very clearly or not, but I'm getting the more detail. It's cleaning it up, and basically what we're doing is we're kind of pixelating it a little bit more. Let's see if I can go to an extreme example. It's going to take a minute to roll. Here we go. See if you can see the darkening of what it's done with the pixels. So when you pull away, you can see a lot more of the detail that's in there. That's kind of heavy for me. It looks a little fake. Let's try dropping it down to say 10. Just see how that looks. Okay. Saturation. We can choose how much we're saturating. Let's go down a little bit, about 10. Let's see how that looks. There we go. It got a little bit better. It's getting more of that yellowy kind of look back. At least I think I'm going in the right direction. Let's take a look. See how it goes. Maybe I want to go the other way. Who knows? Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, a little too much. So actually, let's, again, just to show you what would happen if you go to extremes. There we go. So you can see the color saturation of what it's doing, which that's pretty extreme. It's very, very vibrant. And if I want to see kind of like almost how much more vibrant than it really is, I can also go back up here to take my black point, and let's bring my black point up. Let's bring the background up to, let's say 85, 50-ish. Whoops, a little too high. Let's say 8600. Let's see how that looks. So I moved my black point up. There we go. Now I've darkened out my background. Kind of liking this a little bit. I'm not going to worry about the white point. I'm leaving the white point alone. Let's just see for an extreme. We'll take it up to 30. Yeah, I'm really down. It's really starting to get these blues and stuff are really starting to pop out. They're getting very electrified. The reds and the magentas are getting really, really popping. It's almost looking kind of fake at this point. I think that's way too much. We definitely should bring this back down a little bit. Let's say about 18. Let's take a look at that. See how we like that. There we go. That's toned it down significantly. Now it's not quite so ridiculous looking, I guess, so to speak. So I'm okay with it. I can even take my base levels down again. See how I'm liking them or not liking them. There we go. So I actually like that. I did like that preset. So that preset brought it pretty close to where I'm kind of liking it. And I'm just, let's take my black point up again just a little bit. Up to 86. Yeah, so I was liking this one a lot better on one of the ones I was working on. And it just comes with tweaking the colors, tweaking your background, and trying to get what you want. So when you are done with it and you're ready to save it, just come over here, click save. It's going to pop up here, at which point you can save it to, again, you can change your name on it if you want to. So we'll just say practice on this one, hit OK, and then you can pick your file format. So here you can put it into a TIFF file if you want to take it over to Paint or something like that, or if you want to take it to Adobe, you can leave it as it fits, or you can put it into a JPEG. If you put it into a JPEG, click OK. Make sure you change your quality up to 100 and click OK. And bing, you're done. It's now a JPEG. There you go. You'll see the last image right there. Load as a JPEG.